Means we have the pleasure of switching from tech manufacturing to space tech, and in the space tech sector we find AAC Clyde Space, and we have the pleasure of having you, Lewis, presenting remote from, are you in London?
I'm in Glasgow, in the UK.
Glasgow, UK. Okay, so I will go and stand in the middle and listen to your presentation and leave the show to you, and you share your presentation and go for like 22, 23 minutes, and then I will host moderation and questions to you. So the show is yours, Lewis.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, or joining me on this presentation. I will talk to you about us, AAC Clyde Space. I hope you can all see the screen. Our company, AAC Clyde Space, is a space company. We make satellites, we make things that go into space and operate from space. But today, I will talk more about data and information and services from space rather than hardware, but we'll still talk quite a lot about hardware. And the reason for talking about, the reason to talk about data is because that is actually driving the growth of our industry, a growth that we have never seen before. This is down to the fact that our appetite for data, for information that is gathered by satellites, is insatiable. We are growing the amount of information that we collect every day dramatically. This is exponential, and with that grows the demand for satellites, for assets from space. And if you take a look at these statements from a few of the analysts around the world, we are looking at the possibility that our space market will grow to about $1 trillion by 2040. And this is a very fast growth, considering that a few years ago we were just in a very few hundreds of billion. And this is all driven, as I mentioned, by these need for data, need for services. And we sometimes don't actually realize how much space is already part of our day-to-day life. Be it monitoring and helping firefighters combat big fires around in the forests of the world. These are events that are usually regional or countrywide or even continental, and they require this kind of the ability to see from space, to see from far fields, to be able to manage, to be able to help, to mitigate the consequences, and then to actually assess what happened afterwards and prepare the recovery action. We do things like we monitor our oceans from space. We monitor where ships are, what they are doing they doing illegal things, are they in the wrong places? But also we use that to actually see if we are using them in the most environmentally friendly way. Are we actually routing them in the right way? So we do all of these things from space, and even very critical things for life on Earth, like feeding the population. These are now done with the help of data from space and services from space. We don't realize, but most of our crops are actually monitored from space. We use the information to be able to see if we are getting the right yields, to actually predict how much food there will be, and to help farmers produce better, not only in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality, and by reducing their environmental impact. By actually telling farmers if they need, how much fertilizer they need to apply, how much pesticides they need to apply. By helping them in deciding that, we can actually reduce the amount they use. That is not only good for the farmer, because it reduces their costs, but it's good for the environment if they use less pesticides, if they use less fertilizer. And we can do that from space. We collect millions of square kilometers of images every day from farms, fields around the world to help in these food production. And this is quite critical for life on Earth as our population grows. And what this is driving is an exponential growth in the number of satellites. And if you take as a reference that in 2020 we launched probably 1,000 satellites or a little bit below that, you can see that the growth of the number of launches of satellites launched is exponential. And this will continue because, as I said, our need for data, our need for information, our need for communication systems from space is insatiable. And companies like ours, and particularly like our company, AAC Clyde Space, we are very well positioned to benefit from this growth. And we do that because, first of all, we sell products for space, components, be it computers, power systems, all the things you need to make a satellite. And we sell that to the global industry, to the global satellite industry. Then, of course, we also make space missions. We also put those components together to make satellites. And these are the key technology. These are the ones that actually allow us to then measure and to communicate from space. And then what we are doing also is doing what we call space data as a service. That is when we actually, not only we build the hardware, but we then actually provide the service to the users. And this is a very powerful business proposition to users because many of them have a very strong business here on Earth. They have a core business that revolves around providing information, analytics, but they are not space companies. So for them, the use of space data is always difficult if they have to go and buy their own satellites. But because we do that for them, we actually offer them the opportunity to have access to the data, to have access to the service without having to own the satellites and the ground stations and the people to actually run all of those. And because of that, space data as a service opens the door to a whole new range of users of space data. And this is the sector, this is the part of our sector, the area of growth that we see driving the industry in the next few years. And as I say, this space data as a service allows us to actually support our customers in a way that is not just by selling them a piece of hardware. So what we will do is we'll design, we build, we test, we launch, we operate a satellite, and then we downlink the data. So we bring all the data down to Earth. And from that, we actually then give it, we then sell it to our customers, we provide it to our customers, and they will receive it into their servers and they will use it for their analytics products. And this separates the need from the need from having a satellite network, of having your own constellation, your own ground stations, and allows you to focus on your core business. And last year we made quite a lot of progress in improving the offering. Not only we already have contracts for space data as a service, but we are actually entered into a public-private partnership with the European Space Agency and the UK Space Agency to develop this capability even further, to develop the offerings to the market. And at the same time, we acquired a company in the US, SpaceQuest, that has been doing this already for several years. So they have a constellation of satellites and they are providing the data to customers. Only that data that customers need. And in this way, we are actually capitalizing on the increased need for data. Space data as a service will become an industry standard, and we have a head start in that sector, in that service. We are already doing it. We know how to do it. We have the techniques, we have the procedures, we have the processes to do it, and this will allow us to increase dramatically the sampling frequency, so the timeliness of our data, the quality of data, but also as we do these small satellites that we are providing now, we can start offering new types of data. It's not just about the quality of the data, it's about the new types of data and the timeliness. Much more fast production of data, much fast delivery of that data. And this is all driving a demand for the growth of satellites. And we as a manufacturer will benefit from that. We will manufacture more satellites. So talking a little bit about the company today, we were founded in 2005. We are largely Anglo-Swedish heritage company. So we are headquartered in Uppsala. We've got a big production facility in Glasgow. That's why I'm here. I'm based here. And our products support satellites from about 1 kilo up to 500 kilograms. So we sell components, computers, power systems to very large satellites. But we as a company, we tend to focus on the 1 to 50 kilogram satellite, because we see that that's the range of sizes where we have the biggest advantage, where we can actually provide new type of services. We can provide new types of satellites. So we focus very much on the 1 to 50 kilograms. And we have done these many times, and we have provided components for many satellites, many hundreds of satellites in the world, around the world. What means that we have a lot of experience, we have a lot of heritage, we know how to build this hardware to go into space. And we know that it will work. We are about 100 employees in 4 locations. So you've got here in Glasgow, Uppsala, Delft in the Netherlands, and Fairfax in Virginia. And this is part of the acquisitions that we did last year. And just to give you a brief overview of how we are organized, in Sweden we are focusing on high quality, high performance components that are being used in a very wide range of satellites, from satellites monitoring the Earth all the way to spacecraft that are going to the moon. We're also building satellites in Sweden, in Uppsala. We are starting to build our first satellite in Uppsala now. In Scotland, we very much focus on the manufacturing and also the engineering of satellites. In the Netherlands, we are focusing on some components for satellites, but also we are focusing very much on laser communications, a key technology for the future of our industry. And then in the US, SpaceQuest, again, they manufacture and sell some components for satellites, but their core competence is managing constellations, is managing satellites and delivering services. And this is very much the focus of that company. So by bringing these capabilities together, we are in a very strong position to actually compete in the new space data as a service domain. Not only we have the technology, but we have also the business models. And so we can actually offer our customers very much the focus. We can offer them the data so that they can focus on their day-to-day business. But of course, this relies very much on our ability to have products and components that consistently perform. And you see here a few examples. On the left, on the right, you have some examples of the kind of components that we are providing to the industry. And these are very key, because by doing these components, by having the IP around them, by owning the designs, we can actually mix and match these components to do the best satellites that we can, and also the ones that actually answer the needs of the customers. But we can also modify them. We can actually work with them to improve our offering to our customers. And so very much components continue to be the bedrock of what we deliver. And then of course, everything around building the missions. And sometimes people underestimate how you actually go from building components to building satellites. And it's not just about the technology, it's also about having access to the right services. So you see in here a few examples on that. We have developed the competence on launch services, the brokerage, the licensing, the insurance, the integration. All these are things that you have to develop as a skill before you become a provider of missions. And then, of course, we also have developed our ground network. We have our ground stations, we have our ground software. And all of these requires experience. And based on this experience, we can then confidently move on to space data as a service to deliver services to our customers. And an example of these services is what we are doing with Orbcomm. Orbcomm is a US company. They are probably the world's biggest asset tracking company. They track everything from cars, trucks, to containers. And we are working with them in a space data as a service deal. So what we are doing is we are building 2 satellites that will generate AIS data. This is automated identification system data from ships. And we will collect these in space, and then we'll download this data. We'll then deliver the data to the servers of Orbcomm. And they will then use this in their analytics software that they then use to sell to coast guards and private companies all over the world. But the advantage for them is that they don't have to actually be concerned about the constellation of satellites. They don't have to care about the satellites. We will take care of all of that. So they will just receive the data that they need. And that allows them to focus on their core business, that is providing information to their customers. Other model, more traditional, but that we are still doing, and we see that as continuing in the future, is what we call turnkey missions. And the case of Eutelsat, one of the world's biggest satellite operators, is indicative of that type of contract. That is where we actually design and build spacecraft, and then we test them in space, and then the customer takes over the satellites. And in this case, this is an Internet of Things constellation. So we are building 2 satellites for Eutelsat. They have announced that they want to then generate a constellation in the future, or have a constellation in the future. And the objective is to actually connect internet-enabled assets all over the world. So this is part of this global communication network that will require for the next generation of connected assets. And we are doing this, and doing this for a company like Eutelsat is quite important, because it shows the confidence that they now have in the kind of technology that we are developing. So these small satellites, and that satellite is the size of a big shoebox, will actually deliver a very operational, very, very reliable service to one of the major satellite operators. And this is a change from their mindset a few years ago. They were not actually using these small satellites, and now they are. So it shows the long way the technology has come through. And the fact is that the industry is actually very resilient. This demand for more information, this demand for more services from space is actually leading the industry to grow very much and grow in a resilient way. And what we saw in 2021, or in 2020, is that despite the pandemic, we were able to actually continue to grow. We were able to actually continue to have new contracts and to actually achieve some very important milestones. And I mentioned already the PPP that we did with the European Space Agency, but we also have the acquisitions of 2 companies. We have another grant with the Scottish government to develop new technology. So despite the pandemic, despite the economic issues around the world, we were able to grow. We were able to actually grow our business and to expand our technology and to grow our service offerings. So this shows the resilience of our industry. And that can be seen on our financials and our backlog. Despite all the issues, despite all the issues with financing for many companies around the world, we will still be able to actually maintain our backlog. It came down a little bit, but to some extent that is just reflects the work we were doing throughout the year. Our revenues, our sales have grown, our EBITDA has improved, all showing that the business is growing and the business is becoming more financially sound as we go along. And our objective for the future is to grow our business from the 100 million SEK that we had in 2020 to 500 million in 2024. And this is something that we see as not only very possible, but actually very realistic, given the evolution of our market. Our market is growing fast. The appetite for the products that we are delivering is high, and we see the growth path is there. And the way we are seeing it evolving, and this is based on what we see as the pull of the market, what we are being asked by customers, is very much a change in the makeup of our business. So in 2020, see roughly about a third of our deliveries were from products, components, and the rest was missions. By 2024, we expect products and components to continue to grow, and so their share of our production will be similar, or their share of our deliveries will be similar. But then we see the appearance of space data. Space data as a service will increasingly become dominant. And actually, if you extrapolate these even further into the future, we see that gray slice of the graph to actually increase even more. And this is because more and more missions will become just part of space data as a service. So we will be converting a lot of what is mission work into space data as a service. But we see also advanced sensors. One of the areas that we have identified that we need to grow is our ability to actually provide the sensors that we need for things like space data as a service deals. And for that, we need to actually develop that capacity, that capability. But what we are seeing is that the market is evolving in a way where data is becoming more and more important. And so we will grow that. We are growing that. We are already talking to many companies and many organizations about how we can do that in the future, how we can provide their needs for data. And some of these organizations are not even what you normally associate with data from space. We have transport companies on Earth that just want to know where their trucks are or where their trains are, and they are talking to us about how they can improve that, how they can manage those fleets from space. So we see that growing. It's a market that is growing, and as I say, if you extrapolate even further past the 2024, you'll see that we will be even in a. This will become an even bigger part of our business. So the key takeaways from today that I would like you to take from this presentation are: the market is growing. Data, our appetite for data is insatiable. So people want more data from space. They want more services from space. They want more information to live their day-to-day lives. And we, as a company that offers the full end-to-end capability, we offer them the technology, we offer them the service, we can offer them the data. We are poised to grow with them, and actually to grow faster than the market, because we are focusing more on the side of that market that is growing faster, that is space data as a service. And having a unique offering in that allows us to grow faster than the market. And we have a clear plan to grow. We are growing organically, but we're also looking at companies out there that can add something to our business. They can bring a capability, they can bring a technology, they can bring a business model that will allow us to compete stronger. And ultimately, what we want is to become the world leader in commercial small satellites. And we believe we can achieve that. I'm very excited about this. I see this industry evolving very strongly. I see this industry evolving very quickly, and I see this as a great opportunity for all of us to actually grow the space data, to grow our ability to actually use data and to receive and to have information from space, and it's a great opportunity. I'm very excited, and I hope you also get excited about this opportunity. So thank you. I will now open the floor for some questions if there is time.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
We have some echo here.
Yes. Can you let go of the presentation? Hello. And we will, I think that both cameras will be on. Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very good. Yeah, this is all very, very exciting. Just some questions to understand the business from a very low position to maybe a little more. Is there a size and cost factor in time going forward so that a 25-kilo satellite 2021 does what a 100-kilo satellite did in 2012, and does it provide the same service cheaper than it did 5-6 years ago?
There has definitely been a technical evolution that has effectively meant that smaller satellites are more capable. So we are packing a lot more technology, much more capability into smaller sizes. And what we are seeing is that we are now being able to do what with a small satellite in the 20-kilo range, the kind of satellite that we tend to do more of. We can do things that 10, 15 years ago were being done with satellites of 10 times that mass, or more even. Nevertheless, there are sizes. There is an optimal size that is usually around that. You do need to have a certain aperture for some sensors. You do need to have certain sizes you need to generate a certain amount of power. So we are in this phase where we actually have found size and a mass where we can actually make satellites. They are low cost enough to launch, they are low cost enough to produce, and we can launch large constellations on large networks. But the capacity will continue to increase, yes. Technology will continue to increase. Our computers are faster, our communications are better. You saw there, I mentioned laser communications, for instance. Those will allow us to actually do a lot more in terms of data downloads and data transfers on the same small size than we can do right now. We are talking about an order of magnitude or two, even in some cases, of improvement. So there are technologies coming up that will actually make it even make our small satellites even more powerful.
Okay, and are these satellites, are they typically collaborations between different users, or is it one customer and one or many satellites?
It's a mix. So in some cases, the traditional industry was very much about single-use satellites, so you had one customer per satellite. What we are starting to see now is that you have more than one customer using the same satellite, sometimes sharing a sensor or a system, other times actually having two separate sensors. So our US branch has a couple of satellites that have actually two different payloads, and they are used for two different customers. So you can actually mix and match, and we see more of that coming in the future. As we evolve our space data as a service constellation, you'll start seeing more and more a mix of sensors. So in some cases, we might have an AAS receiver, we might have cameras on the same satellite, and so we'll be providing information to different customers, different types of information from the same satellite, and that is actually a big opportunity for growth. Because we will be able to, with one satellite, we'll be able to service very different customers.
Okay. So you were just a little bit from 100 million last year, and your loss was 17 million. And if I read your Q4 right, you had a cash position end of year for 68 million. So that looks like a good cash position. That means if you were to do share offering, that would mean you're going to acquire another related company, or what will happen there?
Yes. So we are financed to do our work. So we have enough cash to do our work. But as you say, if we actually see a good opportunity in the market, if we see a company that would add something to our business, that would bring something to our business in terms of capacity or business model or a new technology, we would actually do that as a share offering. But as I say, we are financed to go through with our current plan. But we can accelerate that plan. We can actually grow faster. And for that, yes, that's how we do it.
Okay, so this you have a break-even goal on 2022, and you're telling us here about it looks very aggressive to increase sales 5 times in 4 years. Is that along with the growth in your industry, space data, or is it way more than the whole market? Do you know that?
It's faster. It's aggressive, but it's possible, so it's realistic. So when we look at the opportunities we've got on our books, what we are looking at, we actually see it as a realistic target. It's faster than certain areas of our industry, but it is, as I say, is based on what we see as our possibilities, what the kind of customers are coming to us, the kind of things we are working on. So it's a realistic target.
Okay. Just another technical question that I should have asked it earlier, but I've forgot it. Many interesting things, and we live on numbers. But the technical question, I buy 5 25-kilo satellites from AAC Clyde space, and you deliver them in space, and they start delivering their service, their data service. What is their lifespan? How long do they live?
Our target in general is about 5 years. Now, many of these satellites will last longer, but our target is 5 years. We can do certain activities to make them last a bit longer. We can make them a bit more complex, introduce more redundancy, so they will last longer. But we believe that the sweet spot in terms of extra cost, performance, renewal of the technologies is 5 years. So that's our target right now. But as I say, we can extend it, and in some cases they might actually just survive longer periods.
Okay, I will, Louis, I will take a question from the audience here.
A couple of questions. You say you are best in class, and I don't doubt that technically, but your profitability is rather poor. So do you have to, and your competitors, do you have to sort of underbid each other to gain market share at this point? I mean, I would have thought that with this technical complex things, you would be able to charge a price so that you can be profit making. The second question is, at this point, what is in your niches your market share? And in order to be world leader, what sort of market share would you have to reach?
So answering the first one, yes, profitability is low. There is competition. So we count, although we have a good technical product and we have good technical capability, we also have to make sure that we are competitive. So there is only so much that you can charge over a premium that you can charge. So the hardware business, as many competitors, it is a competitive business, and as such, we actually are always limited in the margins that you can win there. Where we see much bigger margins is in the space data as a service, is when we are actually doing these longer term contracts, not only because they are more profitable, but they tend to be longer in duration. They create a much better relationship with our customers, a long-term relationship with our customer. They are more valuable because of the overall amount of activities we are doing is much bigger. So we see that as one of the paths to increase our profitability. Of course, we are doing the other things of reducing our costs, our production costs, improving our technology. So one of the things I didn't mention, but that we are doing, is developing a new type of avionics for our satellites. So this is the core computers that make them a lot more standard, much easier to produce. So that reduces the costs and improves our profitability. But it is a very competitive. The hardware business is a very competitive business, and as such, we always have to be mindful of how much we are asking customers to pay. Answering the second question.
Louis, we need to keep it short, so give us the shortest answer you can.
Yes. Could you repeat your second question, please? Sorry.
Market share.
Market share, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. My apologies on that. So in terms of our market share, it's difficult to measure. It's difficult to measure because the market is very diverse. The answer I usually give is that we are in the 10 to 20% of market share of our direct accessible market. This is the market that actually is accessible to us. To be dominant, I think we need to grow that, but it's more actually about growing into other parts of the market, particularly on the services. I believe that's where we want to take a dominant position.
Okay, so sorry, Louis, we're out of time. We have to go to break and then the next schedule. So thank you very much. This has been very exciting. Glasgow to Stockholm, and here's an applaud from Stockholm to Glasgow.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to the next one to be there in Stockholm and not doing it remotely.
We hope so. Thank you.